What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, Wednesday, July 27th. I am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, my dynamic duo, my Richard Hamilton and my Chauncey Billups, the guy to my right, Jeff Iafrady. Jeff, what's going on, brother?
Oh, it's going, man. It's the day of the teals that we talked about. And I know
Oh,
we're going to get into it a little bit too, but it's just a good day, man. I'm
yeah,
excited. We're in like the weird, awkward period between the start of the season and like post summer league and off season. So I'm just ready to get this thing going.
yeah, without a doubt. It's the week of the teal, and it's the week that all of our wallets are weeping. And I'm with a guy who always makes me weep for joy whenever I see him, my guy, Troy Sergey. Troy, what's going on, brother? How do you feel about the teal reportedly being back?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Definitely a blast from the past. Wasn't quite around into the Pistons fandom when the teal was popping back in the early 2000s, but hey, I'm ready to jump on this bandwagon of teal supporting Pistons fans. So here
Heck
we
yeah, man.
are.
And then we save the best for last. My guy, Zariq, the newest member of Woodward Sports, my brother, my guy. Dude,
What's
first
up,
of
man?
all, I told you how pumped I was when I saw you were joining Woodward. But, dude, it's just good to have you on the pod finally, and welcome to the family, dude. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm a big fan of the show. I love what you guys have been doing.
Appreciate that,
Thank
man.
you. Yeah,
No
I'm
doubt.
excited. I'm excited to be on here, man.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy to think like I remember like I found your Twitter around like the draft like this time last year, and like around like this time last year is when like this YouTube channel even started, and this was just like a small thing. And now just to see, the fact that I'm here, the fact that we're all here, the fact that you're here now, it's kind of a cool full circle thing, man. So
Yeah,
seriously,
it's
dude,
really,
it's just
it's really
exciting
cool.
times.
Yeah, I've known Sean since before the season even started, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was
Yeah,
before.
we were talking like during the summer. I remember we were gonna try to meet up opening night, but it was
Yep,
just a chaotic night. But now,
it was crazy.
dude, yeah, dude. But now we'll be meeting up, and now, not only are we just guys that know each other on Twitter, we're coworkers, man. We're
Sure,
family now.
sure.
Yes,
We
sir.
bleed that Woodward green, man. So,
Yep, yep. And I
as
became a fan of Jeff's the first time I saw him on a podcast.
I was
I think
indifferent on him.
it was on the big it was one of the big studio shows. I don't remember which one. It was on one of the big
Yeah.
studio shows. Like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I
It
appreciate you, man. I
was
know I'm
cool.
hopping on. I don't honestly remember. It could have been any of them, but I appreciate that a lot, man. I'm a big fan of you. Your
Thank
Twitter,
you.
honestly, every time you tweet, I'm dead. And I got to say that now because you are the funniest guy, one of the funniest guys I follow. So I'm happy you're here, man. It's awesome to call you a
Appreciate it.
coworker now, man. It's
Thank
hype.
Yeah, yeah, and that is the thing. If people don't know, when you're looking at when you're looking at like the essential list of Pistons Twitter accounts,
Oh yeah.
the top of that list, it starts with Zariq, man. Seriously. Not Raspberry on Twitter. This guy's got memes, but also be sure to follow Bully Ball as well. Everything that you got going on there.
Yeah.
For the
Fire
people that
content.
don't know, do you want to talk a little bit about Bully Ball, what that brand is, and what you guys are doing over there?
Yeah, I'd love to. Bully Ball is a brand I started with my friend Jake. Jake's Bad Tweets on Twitter. And he actually was a big wrestling Twitter guy. So I'm actually a big pro wrestling fan
Hey,
myself.
I am too, man.
Yeah, so that's how I knew him in the first place. And then we're both from Michigan, and then we started talking about sports like a long time ago. And he's been a mutual of mine for a while. Then one day he randomly hit me up, and he was like, "Yo, I want to start like a sports page," because he had a really successful wrestling one that he ran. It was called Tiger Driver. It had like 15,000 followers. They sponsored wrestlers. It was intense. But he told me he wanted to get into this, and we both edited videos, and he did more graphics than I do because I'm not good at Photoshop right now. Uh,
Welcome to the club, brother. It's tough.
it's been a rough learning process, but we're getting there. And basically, our idea initially was to cover all sports, all cities, but it became a thing where we're going to focus on Detroit first. And I think it's mostly become a Detroit-based social media page. It's kind of like I don't know how to describe it. It's not really similar to a lot of other pages I follow, but we post mixtapes on there, graphics on there. It's basically we post whatever creative stuff we can come up with when it comes to these sports.
Yeah, absolutely, man. A lot of solid memes, a lot of great mixtapes, but I mean, you guys are really just on here repping Detroit sports, and I mean, it's in a lot of different ways. And I mean, whether you're clowning on Kings fans, whether you're coming up with hype mixtapes. Like I remember last year Specifically the mixtape you made for opening night last year. I remember when that came out, I like wanted to run through a freaking wall. I was so excited, man. So seriously.
Speaking of, I have the new one finished. I'll send that to both of you guys.
Ooh!
Oh yeah, I got to see that, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and believe me, when that comes out, we're gonna be pumping that out. That's gonna be being spread like wildfire. So we're super pumped for that. But we're just pumped for a lot of things basketball wise, man. And that's the other piece of it. Not only are you awesome in the social media game, you know your stuff when it comes to hoops as well, and that's what it's all based around, is being a huge hoops fan. So we're just glad you're here. We're pumped to talk basketball because that's what we do here from Half Court Reach every week. We break down all things NBA basketball, the Pistons, and everything. So if you like that, be sure you like this. Subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, join the conversation in the comments down below. But also, did you know that over 67% of our viewers aren't subscribed? What the is that about, man? Miss me with that bull, man.
Sean, that's 66% too many.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Jeff. That's becoming a new saying of yours, and I like it.
It's just the button, bro. Hit the button. Hit the button.
Just clicking a button, man. Zariq, that's just bad behavior, man. That's just inappropriate.
Me personally, I wouldn't let that slide.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You see why we have to bring it up. I'm glad we can bring it to people's attention, because this is a humanitarian thing at this point. Yeah, but guys, speaking of humanitarian things, humanitarian efforts, we talked about how the teal is coming back, and with that, there's a lot of things to be excited about for this upcoming Pistons season. And Zar, I kind of wanted to start with you, because obviously you've been a big proponent of what the Pistons have done this offseason. I know Kings fans have been coming at Pistons fans quite a bit, saying that, oh, well, they clearly had the way better offseason. But I think Zar, it's pretty clear that the Pistons are pretty thrilled with what they have cooking. And I think in the long term, I think we know what team out of that draft is going to be pretty thrilled with what happened that night. And I think Detroit is at the top of that list.
Yeah. The Pistons, I was actually there for the draft party at Little Caesars Arena. The feeling that I walked, like, it was a unanimous feeling when you walked into that arena. It was just nerves. Like, you could feel the nerves. Everybody was so nervous. And it's crazy because in a lot of situations, you don't talk to strangers, like you really don't interact with that many people you don't know, but everybody was talking to each other. If they knew each other or not, they were talking to each other, walking in, going down the stairs, or like in the main section where the draft party was happening. Everybody was asking, who do you think we're going to draft? Who do you think we're going to draft? Who do you want us to draft? The last question, everybody answered Jaden Ivey. I did not have a single person that didn't say Jaden Ivey. And I got the notification that the Kings had selected Keegan Murray at 4. And a lot of people had silenced their phones and not checked their notifications. And I thought I did, but I saw that, lost my mind. But I was still nervous because I was like, I don't know what we're going to do still, because I don't know how high we are on Ivy. I don't know, like, everything. And when that pick got announced, it was like the loudest I've heard LCA since like the 2019 playoff game. And it might even rival that, because it was such a euphoric feeling that the whole arena felt. And that was just one of our picks. They shut down the party by the time the Durant trade happened.
Right.
But it was just a euphoric feeling in the building, because everybody, I think, in that building knew how special Jaden Ivey can be. And then I initially thought we were trading Ivey for Durant, which I was freaking out about. And then when I found out the return, I was so happy. We got two of the most explosive athletes in the entire draft. And I could not be more thrilled. I did that trade in 2K. I did a trade. I did a sim where I did Jaden Ivey at 5, and then I did Durant at like 12. I think I drafted him at 11 or 12. And I quit and I deleted the sim because like, this is unrealistic. Like, this would not happen in real life. and here we are. And we really didn't have to give up that much to get him, which is crazy.
That's the crazy thing with Troy Weaver, is that at times it does feel like he's playing 2K with some of the moves he's able to pull off. It's like, you got 3 players in your first round. Like, it's like, for people that don't remember, like some of us might recall when he took over, that our young core was Luke Kennard, Svi Mikhailuk, Bruce Brown, and now it's Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duran, Cade Cunningham, Killian Hayes. And that's the thing, is like, like normally like Killian Hayes would be like our one centerpiece. That'd be like our one young prospect. he's like a luxury at this point if he works out, honestly. And I remember you're talking about like the reaction from in the stadium when you found out Keegan Murray was the pick. I remember when we were at the draft show, I was trying to avoid the spoilers, but I was on Twitter and I couldn't, like, it just showed up. Whoa, just notification. The Kings are zeroing in on Keegan Murray. And like Jeff can attest, like I was in the studio, I literally like yelped and I was like sitting there, I was like, oh, and like I literally did one of those things. I was just like taken aback. Like, oh my God, that's actually happening. Like, this is actually a real reality that we're living in. And obviously I know that you did get like into back and forth, but like I think it's important to acknowledge that Keegan Murray, like none of us ever said that he wasn't going to be a good basketball player. Right? Like him balling out at the summer league, like if anything, is like kind of what should have been expected. Right. I mean, because he's the guy that's been talked about as like NBA ready, the guy that like is the most consistent, can show up and just drop 20 points in an NBA game at any given night. Like that just seems like that's what Keegan Murray's always been. So all this talk of like, oh, like at the summer league, which even then when Jaden Ivey played also looked awesome, by the way. So like, I think it's one of those cases where can both fan bases not be happy? Like can both be true that like both guys are going to be solid? And even then, the Kings also can both like their guy and also still have picked the wrong guy. That can turn out to be a reality.
Right.
Can it not?
Definitely right.
Yeah. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think I do want to say, too, just going back to that draft night, the fact that Troy was considering taking Durant at 5 and you left with Ivy at 5 and Durant at 12 and you traded what, Durant – 13 for basically a bag of chips, like maybe salt and vinegar chips. And then you hit in return. The fact that looking back and reminiscing, like we're all excited for the season, but man, Troy just operates differently. And I've never seen a GM like this in terms of, their draft and how many successful drafts in a row. Like I get the Killian Hayes one, but you're still ending with Stewart and Sadiq Bey. Two valuable pieces who will play a big part with this team moving forward. So it's exciting, man. It really is. Like Troy just continues to impress me.
Yeah, and going back to the Kings pick, too, guys. I mean, yeah, it doesn't really matter if Keegan Murray has a successful NBA career because we know that Ivy was the right pick at 5. Mm-hmm. He was the right guy. He was the guy that wanted to be in Detroit. He was the guy that we know that can play alongside of Cade Cunningham and be that dynamic point guard that we want to have alongside of him. So, I mean, I just feel like we as Pistons fans or Kings fans even, we can't be too upset about either of our picks. I mean, they came, but to Jeff's point, to add Durant makes it even more sweeter. It has 2020 vibes to it with getting Stewart and Bey. Along with Killian Hayes, who ended up 2 guys being the better picks in the first round pick. Now, we'll have to see what kind of career Durant has, but I just think it's going to be a great two combo pick. But guys, I don't know if either of you or all 3 of you were in the building. Well, I know Sean was in line, but that 2021 NBA draft party at LCA, I would argue that was the loudest. It was certainly the loudest I've ever seen it, but I would argue it was one of the loudest it's ever been.
I think it was a different energy though. I was going to bring that up because I was there as well. Because I think like in the 2021 year, like when we were like the number 1 overall pick, like we knew going in who we were drafting, right? So like I think like Zariq was like alluding to, like that nervous energy, like maybe we were all like a little on edge because it was like kind of like. You kind of fear like what the Magic fans went through this last year where like they a lot of them kind of made their minds up of who they wanted. And then obviously all that draft night shenanigans happened. Now, obviously we knew going in, like we heard the reports, we heard it was sealed that like Cade was going to be the pick, but like still, I mean, like it's not the same thing as where this one, it was like, all right, our draft fate is literally in the hands of the most unpredictable franchise in the history of professional sports.
Right.
Because if there was any team that was going to go with a point guard for the 3rd year in a row for the exact type of point guard that played the exact type of style as De'Aaron Fox, it was the Kings. It was going to be them. And then I even felt even though I knew like the Knicks, like even like people are like, no, like they're not going to trade away Jaden Ivey. I was like, I don't know. But like the Knicks are the one franchise that would give up a stupid amount of picks to go get a guy like Jaden Ivey in the draft. So like, again, the fact that you're able to secure that. And again, for the price of just that, ultimately like that 1 draft pick that we gave up in the Jeremy Grant or that we got in the Jeremy Grant trade. I mean, I'll take it. Who says no to that? That's a pretty darn good deal.
Speaking on that 2021 draft party, I was there also comparing the two. I don't think it's close, because the thing is, in that 2021 draft party, everybody knew. Like, there was no like, oh, you kind of you knew straight up, because I remember that day I was in the shower, and I had like music playing, because who doesn't play music?
Yeah,
Whatever.
right.
Yeah.
And it got stopped because I heard a notification. I was like,
Yeah, you hear that Woj notification,
Yeah,
you borderline break through, you dive through the curtain.
Yeah.
like bro,
I nearly like broke multiple bones the minute I saw that notification, because I checked my phone. I was like, what the hell? I almost slipped. I was like in the shower is wet. I was like almost done with my shower. I was like, holy shit. I think I screamed in the shower.
I did. I definitely did.
And
Mhm.
I was screaming because they had confirmed, Woj had confirmed hours before the draft.
Yeah,
Right.
at 3 o'clock p.m. around there.
Yeah.
We're taking Cade Cunningham. So I was like, okay. Once we got to there, it was just, oh, okay, they're announcing it. Now we cheer. Like it was one of those things.
Right.
With this year, it was more of a, I really don't know what's going to happen, but I know I really want to happen, but there's a really small likelihood that it actually does happen. It was one of those types of things.
And I think ultimately too, like even when we look back on this draft, like this is kind of a situation, in my opinion, where I don't know if this is ever like, how do we look back at Troy Weaver and go, well, he obviously should have done this, because Jaden Ivey, for all intents and purposes, was the clear consensus pick at 5. Like even though there were solid guys like Benedict Mathurin that they had interest in, there were other prospects that you could say in theory that you could have selected there. Like they talked about how they would have possibly taken Durant at 5, if it, like, which again speaks to how highly they view him, which, by the way, the fact that his name's being mentioned in the same, breath as guys like Sean Kemp, Dwight Howard, Bam Adebayo, like the fact that those are the comparisons that people are making speaks volumes of the type of prospect he can be.
And two, like you have to think too, the Pistons, like I get the Benedict thing, and we had these conversations on our videos and our streams as well. Like you need to hit on a superstar. Like I don't want a good player, or I need a superstar, highest upside. And Jaden Ivey, consensus best guard in the draft. Like that's upside. Like we love Benedict, we love Keegan Murray, but we just think that there's a ceiling aspect to it as well. Like I think Jaden Ivey, that's a player who can be a superstar. Now Keegan can be a damn good player. I think Benedict can be a really good player, but I just think that ceiling too is what really separated Jaden from the rest. And that's why like Zariq was saying too, I can see why there's so much relief in that arena, because you're like, finally, we landed the guy we wanted in the entire time, and the guy that we think has the highest upside among the rest that were available. So it was a win.
And if we think back too of March and April, when the season was kind of coming to a close here on the podcast, and we were talking about going into the summer and free agency, and more specifically the draft, we kept saying, whatever the lottery holds, whatever position we get in the draft, if that's 3, if that's 4, if that's 5, even if that's 6, there's a good opportunity, or there's a good chance that wherever we land, the pick will be made for us by default. And I think that's something that we gotta, tip our hats to, if we called that right here on the podcast of, we picked 5, and who was the best available player at 5? Definitely Jaden Ivey. Now you're right. If the Kings would have picked him at 4, I mean, the only logical choice to me would have been Keegan Murray, and we'd be having that same conversation about him. So, but the fact that we did land Ivey there right at 5, that pick was made for us. And that even if somehow we had 3, and let's say Orlando still goes with Paolo, Chet still goes to OKC, I mean, we would have the logical choice of taking Jabari. So, I mean, it goes every way, and it just confirms what we've been talking about this whole past 3-4 months about draft position and making that pick. So,
and even that confidence as well from Troy Weaver's position, and not take the bait that the Kings are trying to put out there of trying to get teams to trade up. Like, because the Pistons very easily, like, you could have made a case for them to trade up to 4 to secure Jaden Ivey and give up capital, or even Jeremy Grant to do that. And like, if the team if they ultimately did it, there probably would have been a lot of people that wouldn't have batted 9 and said, that makes sense, go secure your guy. But that's why you do your due diligence. That's why you do your process. And also that's why you listen to reports and keep your ear to the beat, because once you hear things like Keegan Murray going to dinner with Sabonis and Fox, like that's your sign of, no, we're not trading with you. We're not giving up anybody because you're showing your hand, man. Like that's the biggest mistake you can make, like especially in that position, is showing your hand. They did it the entire time. Like it, I know it was a surprise, but still, the Kings media made it pretty known that the Kings liked Keegan Murray. It wasn't news. It really wasn't.
That's what separates Troy from Monty McNair, I think. Like
Yeah.
you have to keep things in-house. Troy, it's kind of like the Iserman thing. You don't know what they're doing. Like they operate, they don't let anything out, and that's the best way to approach it because you have the Kings, Keegan Murray going out to dinner with De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. Keegan Murray articles everywhere. That's why when we did these mock drafts too, we mocked him to the Kings already. But again, it's like, do you believe it's true? Like we all knew it was going to happen, but to Zariq's point earlier, it's like you don't know. You really don't.
Yeah.
Right.
The goddamn Kings.
Especially with Troy, one thing I noticed is unless they want you to know, nothing gets leaked. Even when you have someone like James Edwards, that's my guy, never gonna catch me.
Shout out James Edwards.
But if you had read his articles, you would have thought the Pistons were highest on Keegan Murray leading into the draft because it seemed like in all the articles, Pistons want Keegan Murray. Turns out every report after the draft, Jaden Ivey was really high.
Yeah. Jaden Ivey and Jalen Durant turned out really high. Yeah.
And they were considering taking Durant at 5. So that lets you know how little we actually know compared to what's being told to us.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, again, the thing about Troy Weaver is his due diligence, is the process, is the amount of work that he puts in. I truly believe there's few general managers who put in that amount of work. And I truly believe him when he said that he had like millions of different scenarios planned for what could have happened in that draft. And so, that's why like I have ultimate faith at whatever that guy does, because I know whatever scenario plays out that he has a plan. And Jaden Ivey and Jalen Durant, everything we saw in this draft, the aggression, and even the Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks, like every move that he's made is just proved he has a plan. He knows what he's doing, and there's a vision behind it. Whereas like, you see other franchises who have a great number 1 overall pick, and then they go all in and get Rudy Gobert and trade multiple first-round picks and assets to go get Rudy Gobert to go win now. The difference is with Troy Weaver, he's willing to take his time and brew things slowly with Cade and grow organically aside him. Whereas the Timberwolves are taking their guy and saying, hey, you got to win now. We got to start winning basketball games ASAP. Like imagine if we were in that situation. Like that's surreal, man.
That's a Stan Van Gundy move.
Honestly.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it really is. Now, before we get into some more NBA-wide topics, I do want to talk about the Kevin Durant news that broke last night. Something popped up on my timeline today, and I'm still kind of salty about it because this wasn't 6 years ago today, but someone had to share the post from when Anthony Davis dropped 59 on the Pistons in the freaking Palace. And I remember just after this game, I just was violently yelling at my phone, looking at Anthony Davis's stat line, because like there were just multiple points where, like they weren't even trying to defend. Like there were just Andre was just this was him at the paint the entire night. Just
he had a courtside seat.
Yeah, exactly. He was watching the Anthony Davis show when he was playing defense that night. I don't know about you, Zariq, but those, like when I think of like the dark moments of being a Pistons fan, that one creeps high on my list.
That's not even in my top 5, to be honest.
Guys, I remember a game. I don't know why this just creeped in my head, but I remember a game back in 2010, 2011 season. So it was our second year with the Ben Gordon, Charlie Villanueva fiasco. And we had I want to say 26-point lead in the third quarter against the Raptors. And they came back in the fourth to beat us by like 10. That was a moment where I was raging at the TV, my friends.
Oh my gosh,
I can't describe how depressing this past era was, which I saw your guys' video about Blake. I have all the love for like that small period of time. But for the most part, like those 2010 to 2014 years, man.
Yeah. I'm with you there. That's my years of the most pain.
Like,
yeah, man.
People are like, oh, well, like I see people talking about the team. They're like, that was the worst era of Pistons basketball. I'm like, you weren't here. You were not watching Fox Sports Detroit after school. And you're looking like, I got to put this in perspective. I'm 20. I just turned 20 a couple weeks ago. The majority of my life was that era of Pistons basketball.
Yeah.
I did not have those 2 championships before that, and then the 04 championship. I had the 04 championship, which I was probably not even like conscious for, So,
ladies and gentlemen, the Detroit Pistons have officially announced
no
that
way.
the teal is back, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, the teal is back, mother. We back, baby. Return of the teal.
Now,
Oh,
with
my
that, I
Lord.
have a little story because remember on opening night, me, Sean, and our other buddy Robert, who's on the Pizza Palace podcast, we all went together. And remember, Robert was gone in the gift shop for like the entire second quarter.
Yes.
And then he came back and he told us, guys, I just bought this K jersey, and the people at the counter told me that next year they're bringing back the teal. We're like, yeah, we'll wait till next year to see if that happens. Well, that little gift shop clerk spilled the beans on opening night.
What an
to our boy.
insider.
Well, Big Sean also confirmed it too, though, a lot,
Okay.
like towards the beginning of his run. But it is also available on the Pistons 313 shop as well. Hashtag Return of the Teal is here. The teal is back, man. And the first thing they show is Jaden Ivey wearing the teal. Dude. Oh my gosh. Thoughts and prayers to everyone's wallet collectively. Be sure to get on the phone with your financial advisors because, man, I mean, first look, let's just real quick,
Check it out.
official look of the teal.
Oh
Jeez.
boy.
I mean, that's just like we saw in the early 2000s. Like, that's really not. I mean, you got a couple of sponsors there on the right and left, but like nothing else is different. Like, it's
The
not
Nike
really
logo, sick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Elite.
Yeah.
Elite.
This is the point, Zariq. Actually, go on, Zariq.
Sorry, I was gonna say
No, you're
it
good.
looks a little brighter to me than the
Yeah,
other
No,
teal.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it
It
pops
looks
more.
a little brighter. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot more because the teal, the thing with the teal initially, I always liked the Grizzlies teal more than the Pistons
Yeah.
teal.
Mhm.
Maybe hot take, but I always liked it
Grizzlies
because
teal is fire.
Teal.
People
It
can
was-
say what
yeah,
they
it was-
want, but the Grizzlies teal was fire.
Yes,
It
that
is.
color teal was why I liked it more because ours was more darker. It was almost closer to like a dark blue than it was teal.
Mhm.
But this is the stuff right here.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm glad this happened while we were on the pod together. Sorry, this is perfect, man. This was meant to happen.
Yeah.
That's what's up. The teal's back, ladies and gentlemen. It officially happened.
I
That
do-
was a sign to stop talking about the bad times and to focus on the good times going forward, man. And that's incredibly awesome.
I
I'm
mentioned
hyped.
that 2010 team, and immediately I was cut off by that.
It was the basketball gods. And actually, you were making a great point because I was going to say too, it's perfect timing because I feel like jersey preference is like subjective because if you look at it, like for me, I love the teal, but if you talk to like Terry Foster, he hates the teal. Like it's all perspective. Like for me, and I'm similar in age to you, Zariq. I'm 21, turning 22. So for me, I grew up, in a lot of dark times. The era that which we won, I wasn't conscious as much, but I started being a big fan, 2009, 2010. So I went through a dark, time at the beginning, even leading up the 60-point game Sean put up with Anthony Davis. To see these teal jerseys and to see the new era of Pistons basketball wearing them, it just gets me excited. Like they have a chance to rewrite that narrative, and I think they're going to do it. So this year, to see them a couple times a year with these on this year, man, they're going to be in 2K2. They're going to be in 2K2.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, you're damn right. They're gonna be in 2K.
Oh,
Dude,
Can't
oh
wait.
man, the Pistons Twitter account even just set the teal logo as their profile picture. That just, whoo! Oh, it looks so good. Troy, you're muted. But anyway,
That is good. That is great.
oh my gosh. But anyway, all right. So that's the big news in our circle right now. Obviously the current the classic it's gonna be $135. So for those of you out there wondering, that's how much it's gonna be. Lots of prayers for your wallets, but do with that with what you will. But with that, there's also the big news that came out last night because Woj and Shams just have to be competing at all times and are both just reporting at any hour. And Zar, were you up when this bomb dropped? Because I
Yes.
saw that you tweeted when it happened, and I was like, man, that's dedication. But the big bomb dropped last night that the Celtics have been engaged in talks with the Brooklyn Nets on a Kevin Durant trade and reportedly made an offer that centered around Jaylen Brown, Derek White, multiple first-round picks, and it purportedly all it would take for the Brooklyn Nets to accept that deal is if Marcus Smart is thrown into that equation.
Yep.
And personally, I think that it would be a mistake for the Pistons to, or for the Celtics to make that trade, or to ultimately make that move, especially with how vital Jaylen Brown was to the success of that team, how close they were getting over the top, and then you go get a guy like Malcolm Brogdon over the offseason that makes them just that much better, gives them just that much more depth. Personally, I don't see the point in breaking that up for a star that you don't really know if he wants to be in Boston. You don't really know his health over the course of the next few years. Just personally, to me, I think it's just too much of a risk, and you don't really want to, make a star like that upset, which Jaylen Brown did tweet. SMH was not thrilled with seeing his name in trade rumors. So since you're our guest, since you're our guy, I want to start with you. What were your thoughts when that news came down? And do you think Boston's making a mistake, or do you think that is something that can take them over the top?
So I feel like if it was Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and some picks, I think that's okay. I think that wouldn't hurt them too much, although those are two really impactful players. When you throw in Marcus Smart in there, first of all, taking away the Celtics aspect, from the Brooklyn Nets side, it makes no sense to me, because if you're trading away one of the all-time greats, and you're trading away probably, in my opinion, the best scorer of all time, you would think you're starting to rebuild. Granted, they don't really have any picks, but at the same time, you could accumulate picks, you could accumulate young assets, and then you could get yourself a younger team where you don't have to pay veterans to play. And basically what we were talking about earlier with that 2019 average Pistons team, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's essentially what they're trying to go for right now, is if they trade Kevin Durant for Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, okay, well, what do you have? Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. It's the 2018 Celtics minus Jason Tatum. So
yeah, it's
I don't really get it from a Brooklyn Nets side. From the Celtics side, I get the interest in Kevin Durant. Of course, you'd want to pair Kevin Durant next to Jason Tatum. But who's point guard? Who's playing shooting guard? Who's going to provide defense? It has a lot of holes in it that kind of makes me question things.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, the other thing too, if Kevin Durant isn't stepping up and taking that alpha type of leadership and role that you would hope out of him in those big moments. I mean, we saw Jason Tatum this last year in those brightest moments struggle and really, not take over the way that fans maybe expected or hoped that he would. And a lot of the times it was Jaylen Brown who was taking that initiative and being that number one guy and enforcing the issue during the finals. And so I think part of what made this team so good, like we said, or like you said, is the depth and how much and just how many valuable pieces that they have. And especially if you're giving up guys that are part of that identity, like Marcus Smart, and the other thing too, you really want to help the Boston Celtics build a contender around Jason Tatum, the pick that you traded to them a decade ago. You really want to help them in any way, let that team become a contender after they fleeced you for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum? You really want to do that? Because that would honestly be terrible for Brooklyn. Yeah. That would be such a bad look.
In the same conference too, and I want to speak on Kevin Durant quickly, because I get why the Celtics would want to pursue Kevin Durant. I don't think anybody has an issue with the player Kevin Durant is. He's one of the, like Zariq said, I agree with you. I think he's the greatest, most talented scorer of all time. His ability to get shots from anywhere. But there's a but. Kevin Durant in 3 years has played 90 games. And if you want to take out the Achilles season where he didn't play, he still played 90 games in 2 seasons. So as great as he is, for the Boston Celtics to try and trade for him, this is the price of playing poker, because now Jaylen Brown knows that you tried to deal him. And if this deal, assuming it won't get done, because in my opinion, I don't think they're not going to trade Kevin Durant. There's a tough it's with the Brooklyn Nets asking for way too much, and it's just not realistic. Like if Donovan Mitchell is going to go for 6 to 8 first-round picks, like I can't even fathom what you would even trade for Kevin Durant. And I don't think the Brooklyn Nets really know either. So they're kind of like, hey, throwing this guy, they're just testing the waters. And to be honest, what? Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, but I mean, if you're looking at like the trade packages they're throwing out there, I mean, for this kind of is the closest thing. I mean, because of the fact that, like, say what you will, like, I mean, Jaylen Brown is an all-star. Marcus Smart, say what you will, but he's borderline or close to, he can be an all-star at some point in his career. And then if you throw in multiple picks, I mean, granted it's Boston, so how good are those picks going to be, especially if you're giving them Kevin Durant. But at the same time, I mean, like, I would say, like, I at least understand the fact that you're getting guys that would come in and are at least going to play hard. And I think that's what Brooklyn's looking for. It's like, I think they're looking for the hyper opposite of what they had with Kyrie and KD, where they just want guys. I don't even think they care about winning championships anymore. I think they realize that they screwed the pooch on that, having the ability to happen. But I think they want guys who they know that they're going to come out there and work their tail off and play really hard basketball and probably they would probably rather contend for a play-in and be competitive. And because the owners pretty much said it, I'd rather be mediocre and be proud of the team that I have than be great and not have any pride. Because apparently that was a real problem this last year from ownership, which, I mean, you did it to yourselves. So I don't understand what the problem is.
Real quickly, Troy, I just want to add this too. Like, if you're trading Kevin Durant, I don't think you're ever going to win that trade. Like, you just aren't. And it's the same argument you could probably make for Donovan. You might be able to win a trade with Donovan, but Kevin Durant, like, if you're trading him away, you're getting Jaylen Brown, you're getting Marcus Smart. But to Zariq's point, like, maybe it makes sense for the Brooklyn Nets. I don't get the direction they're trying to go in. I still don't know if Kyrie, I know he's going to be there, but is he really there? Is there a deal that could be made? It's just a lot of, there's no clarity on what's going on in Brooklyn. So, but I get the Celtics. Hey, you get Kevin Durant for 4 years. Like, it's I mean, listen, your team takes it up a notch. I mean, now you have the two best one of the best wing players. You got Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum, I guess, with Giannis. But it doesn't make sense to trade Kevin Durant in the same conference. So you don't want to win, but then you're getting back a bunch of veterans. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think going back to Sean's original point with Boston, you just make the NBA finals, right? You just, with the core of a Jason Tatum, a Jaylen Brown, a Marcus Smart, you stretch it to 6 games. And I feel like you don't want to blow that up. I mean, how many teams can say that they made the NBA finals this past year? Only 2, right? I mean, that's obvious math. So what I'm getting at is not many teams in this league are in the same position that Boston is in. And I think when we look historically at what teams do to push them over the hump when they're so close in the contending seat is they add veteran players. They add guys to your roster who can contribute to your team for a championship. And if I'm Boston, I'm not looking to, in a way, if you trade those guys for Kevin Durant, you are blowing things up. Sure, you do, you play roulette there, as you might that might push you over the hump, but at the end of the day, you're still blowing things up. And I just feel like they're not in a position that they need to even remotely think about doing that, especially when they go so close with the Golden State Warriors and stretching that series to 6. And if you're looking at Brooklyn's part, to Czar's point too, you're definitely looking to rebuild if you do that trade. You are looking at that being your at least destination of what you want to do in the future as rebuilding, putting pieces together. And I guess my argument with that is, do you really want Ben Simmons a part of that rebuild? I mean, nothing really makes sense to
well,
that.
And that's the tough thing. They're not really in a position where they can rebuild because all their picks are with Houston. Like their picks are gone. Like they mortgaged the future to make this big 3 happen. And now we just have this unprecedented collapse, unlike anything we've ever seen. I mean, this time last year, we're like James Harden was still on the roster. Kyrie Irving, we thought still was going to at least still likely play basketball during a regular season. And now we don't even know where Kevin Durant's going to be suiting up opening night. So, I mean, it just tells you where we're at. And I mean, honestly, I mean, if I'm teams like the Celtics, if I'm teams like the Pelicans or teams like the Raptors that are probably still in this race, looking at what's happening, I'm not in a rush to make a move. I mean, like the thing is like as time keeps slipping away, Brooklyn's power is going away by the day, because even though they can bring back Kevin Durant and on their end they could still just have KD play for them this season in a way. I mean, you don't want a looming Kevin Durant being unhappy over your franchise.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, Kevin Durant's going to get what Kevin Durant wants. That's just how this league works.
My only issue too with the Boston Celtics trading all those players as well is like the big thing about the Celtics this year. I get there was injuries. I get, Giannis and facing Brooklyn, which was weird to see Brooklyn only make the 8th seed. Just disappointment in general. But I will say their depth was the most impressive part of the Celtics, and getting rid of those guys, it would hurt them. But again, you're getting a player like Kevin Durant. It's just weird. And then you trade for Malcolm Brogdon, which he's going to be, I think, nice for them if he could stay healthy. But still, it's just, I'm interested to see. One of my buddies, Mike, actually, he bet like $20 on Kevin Durant becoming, next uniform being in the Boston Celtics uniform, getting traded there. And I think the odds were like plus 1,400. So his $20 is going to make him like $400. And now I thought he was crazy months ago, but I guess things just work themselves out.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And I mean, listen, if they make the trade, I mean, like you said, ultimately you can't blame them because
No.
I don't think any one of us would sit here saying that we wouldn't be tantalized by a tandem of Jason Tatum and Kevin Durant on the offensive end. That would be terrifying. And I mean, defensively, that could be pretty threatening as well. But again, like what are you giving up? What's the sacrifice? What's ultimately the price of that? And if it's ultimately that depth and what made that Boston Celtics team so special, which was all the interchangeable pieces and all the different guys that contribute on a different night-to-night basis. And again, again, what point does that become like what the Brooklyn Nets did, where they sold their soul to get Kevin Durant in the first place? So at a certain point, someone's got to learn, you would think. But I mean, yet again, I guess why learn when you can have Kevin Durant on your salary books? But real quick, I saw Easy in the World War Heavyweights of those guys be like, is Jaylen Brown available now? No, he's not available now. We're just gonna answer that one here quick. No, Jaylen Brown's not available on the trade market. He would only be available if they can get Kevin Durant. That's it
right there. If Kevin Durant's available, Jaylen Brown's available. Yeah,
exactly. It's not like the Pistons just call up and be like, hey, Sadiq and a first-round pick, Jaylen Brown. Boom, there we go. It's not going to be how that's going to work, unfortunately. But one thing that could happen, so we saw today Rasheed Wallace ultimately turned down the job from Marvin Ham and the Los Angeles Lakers. He was going to join and become the assistant coach for the Lakers, and we thought was going to play a really big role with Anthony Davis and everything that was happening there with the Lakers this season. However, what we saw is that is not the case, and that he won't be joining them after all. And obviously, one tweet I threw out there right away is, hey, you want to come home and coach Jalen Duren again instead? You want to come back to Detroit? And I mean, obviously, this Pistons team, we have a pretty stacked list of assistant coaches right now. But I mean, guys, Rasheed Wallace is a guy that in the coaching ranks, I think people underestimate how much value he brings to different teams. And that's why Darvin Ham was so interested in having him in the first place. So what were you guys' thoughts when you saw this? And would you be interested in a Rasheed Wallace assistant coach reunion in Detroit?
Absolutely. To have a player too be in the coaching staff, I think having a mentor like Dwayne Casey, it's a perfect situation for him. It's a perfect situation for the players. He's already coached Jalen Duren. He was already, an assistant coach for the Detroit Pistons briefly. But yeah, it's a perfect time to return, man. Like to have the big guys we have in Bagley, Stewart, Duren, even the rest of the players, I think he can provide that mentorship now. Some of the things Rasheed did when he's a player, maybe he can help these guys, learn from his mistakes, but also just being that mentor for the guys. I think he'd be a great fit, man. And he's the type of guy that'll say it how it is. And I respect that. Like we need that. I think Dwayne Casey's that too, but Rasheed is just like a player to player. Like you can communicate with him better because he's been in the same position you've been in. So I think it'd be great for the Pistons, man. I'd love him back.
Yeah, I share the same sentiment. I remember when Rasheed was assistant coach in those early Drummond days, and he had that one dunk. Drummond had that one dunk.
Yeah.
I don't remember who he dunked on, but he dunked on somebody, and Rasheed lost his mind. Going crazy. That was one of the highlights of that entire year for me. And I would love to see Rasheed back, especially now that we have a legitimate young core going forward. Someone like Isaiah Stewart, who kind of needs to resemble Rasheed Wallace's game. Ironic because he was compared to Ben so much originally. But he's going to have to resemble Rasheed in order to work with someone like Jalen Duren.
Yeah.
And even I remember I saw something about Jalen Durant and Rasheed Wallace, like they were working together. Or there were something about them together, and I was like,
Memphis, I think, right?
yeah. And I saw something recent too. Like I said, Rasheed said something about Durant recently, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. Didn't he just accept that Lakers job? And I remember I said something to my brother. I was like, that's kind of weird. Like he would say that when he just got hired by the Lakers. Lo and behold, there's an opening now. So I'm not saying he will get hired by the Pistons or anything, but if he does, it kind of pieces some things together.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting too how quickly after the Darvin Ham hire, it was reported that Rasheed was going to jump on board. I just thought that was really odd of how quickly that was announced in the media. But now, yeah, him not coming, that definitely opens doors for Detroit, I think. But we'll have to know. I mean, maybe he'll return to college and coach a team, assistant coach or head coach a college team. I guess we really don't know. But
yeah, I mean, ultimately that door is there, the relationship is there with Durant, but I mean, also with the fact that the Pistons have shown interest and desire of having guys of the old guard and players from the past in their practice facility, in the organization, having an active role in building in the future. So I mean, listen, if he wants to come back, obviously he's always welcome back with open arms. And I think if there's anyone that would realize the value of having him on the roster, it's someone like Troy Weaver and someone, like Dwayne Casey, like you said as well. I mean, the more former players you can have on your staff, the better, because I mean, that's just guys that people respect, especially people that help put banners up in the rafters as well.
That's the biggest point right there. Like he's been there. Yes, maybe he could teach guys, not to leave Robert Horry open. But again, I mean, there's other things. No, I'm joking. I love you, Rasheed. I love you, Rasheed. Dude, please don't beat
didn't
me.
Have to do that, man. Come on, that's childhood trauma.
No,
man.
Okay, I love Rasheed. All right, but I will say he's been there. Like to have guys in the building. We talked about Ben Wallace, Rip, guys being more involved in the organization. Have Rasheed, mother effing Wallace back with the Pistons, man, coaching these guys up. And it's a perfect match made in heaven because of the timing. Like we're going to an era where these guys have to learn how to win. Oh, here comes Rasheed out of the sky, a guy who's been here and has won in the city of Detroit. So it's a perfect match. I really hope it gets done.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And before we get to our final segment of the show, I do want to bring up a little bit. We've been talking to Sadiq Bey quite a bit on this channel, and Jeff, you and I have made the position known that we believe that Sadiq might already be the best shooter in the history of the Pistons, which is crazy to think because I mean we've had a tutelage in a history of great shooters in Cyprus and beyond the arc, but what Sadiq's done already is unreal. Zar, what do you think of Sadiq Bey as far as his ability to shoot the ball? What do you think of his overall ceiling? And do you think it's crazy to say that he might already be the best shooter in Pistons history?
So I don't like to toot my own horn. However,
toot it. Come on, man.
Yeah, come on. Hey, this is the platform. We allow people to toot their own horns, man. I've been doing that with Chet Holmgren for weeks now, man. It's been great.
I remember I wasn't familiar with Sadiq when we drafted him because that year I only was looking at this 1 through 10 range. He wasn't.
I'm with you there.
So I really wasn't familiar with him or Stewart. Stewart I had heard a little more of than I had Sadiq.
Yep.
When Sadiq got drafted, I was like, okay, first thing anybody does, of course, I go to the highlights on YouTube, search them up.
Sure.
And I remember being like, we got this guy at 19. I was like, I'm missing. There must be a really glaring issue with his game that I'm not seeing because this guy seems way too good for us to get at 19. And what a lot of people that year were saying was a really weak draft. So for him to be at 19 in that draft was almost like a second round pick in other years drafts. Right. So I was really confused, but I was like, okay, maybe I'm missing something, but Troy Weaver definitely sees something there. And I remember I tweeted, Sadiq Bey can be that guy, period. And I mean that guy. And people, I remember someone replied, they're like, they tweeted a picture of LeBron and then they tweeted a picture of Darko, like, which one? And I was like,
oh no.
I was like, okay.
That's messed up.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. It seemed unfair. And I remember initially, even preseason, he didn't get to play that much. But what I did see of him, I was like, this guy's legit. And the more he played, the more I bought in more. And I remember I tweeted, there's a thread out there. If you're watching this, it's deleted by now. um, outside of this one tweet. But I did player comparisons for every single player on that year's team, like every young player, and it was Josh Jackson, Sekou. That's all getting deleted. But for Sadiq Bey, I had wrote down Chris Middleton. And initially, that was a crazy thing to say. Like, that was a crazy thing to say in that season. But the more he's played, the more he's progressed, I see that comparison more and more. I'm saying that's probably his ceiling, but even his floor to me is someone like a Robert Covington, or someone like a Tobias Harris. But to me, he's already a better shooter. So it really depends on how much more he progresses. But to me, he's got an all-star ceiling, and a lot of people try to downplay him as a 3-and-D wing. That man had a 51-point game this year. I don't care if he did it against the G League. I don't care if he did it against people in the rec. Scoring 51 points is legitimately difficult.
Yeah. And it was the way that he did it too. And it's the fact that like this last year, he's like, I'm just going to start trying to create for myself more. And it's like with Sadiq, it was like he picked it up overnight. It was like all of a sudden he was starting to handle the ball more. All of a sudden he was starting to, and then it's like you just realize, oh, this guy truly has a different level of work ethic. This guy truly is elite when it comes to the way that he approaches his off seasons and the way that he approaches like working on his craft and developing his game. I mean, I don't think we've seen a player like Sadiq, especially when you hear about the high altitude training and everything about that. It's like, man, this guy is just built different, and it's just exciting, man. It really is. And like you say, he could be that guy. I think that's why it's one of those things where it's like right now, it is one of those things where like as far as like the best shooter in history of this team, he is that guy. You know what I mean? Like he's already taken that mantle, and it's great, and it's scary of like how much he can really put himself far out of reach in that category as his career goes on, man. It's gonna be unreal. It's scary hours. What year 3 Sadiq Bey can be. Scary hours.
And you can't question his work ethic. Like, hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. And I think with Sadiq Bey, man, like they have to kick him out of the gym, and that's important too. The work ethic. That's why I don't want to limit him to like just a 3-and-D guy. Like I hate that as well, because with his work ethic, he can become. He scored 50 points while being the number one, focused defensively with all the injuries happening. Like he was still that guy, even though being the focused defensively. So he's definitely got the upside. The only point we make, Sean, at the 3-point, just the game has changed. Like the amount of attempts that Sadiq is going to have from a season-to-season basis, and if he gets more consistent, because that's the one thing you might be able to argue more consistent shooters in Pistons history, but in terms of makes, and if he's only 2 years in the freaking league, if he becomes more consistent, my God, he's going to blow these records out of the water if he stays a long time in Detroit. So Sadiq, I mean, and I hate when people get offended. I got to rant real quick, because if I say Sadiq's going to be a third option, or I think he will, second or third option, people get so offended. Yeah. But if you look at the two finals teams, who are their third options? Right. Still damn good players. So again, it's a compliment. I think I wouldn't put a ceiling on him because of his work ethic, but certainly, man, he is that dude.
Well, and let's have a realistic conversation about that, because I get where people are coming from, but at the same time, how many players can we truly say are number ones? Like you can probably
not too many.
Not many at all.
Literally, you can probably count with your two hands, right? Like there are probably like 10 true number ones in the NBA, and even that might be being generous as far as like if you really want to go like, all right, well, who's number ones that can win a championship?
Right. Because even like a Washington with a Bradley Beal, we would never call a number one option, right? Or even I mean, a guy like DeRozan, who we love.
Love him.
Not a number one option, right? So
yeah, it's amazing to me just how many people fall for the Basketball Reference box score with certain guys. It's quite insane. Like you would believe that Colin Sexton was Kyrie Irving reincarnated with how certain people look at his freaking Basketball Reference page, man. It's ridiculous, but that's just the way basketball is, man.
I'm a Colin Sexton supporter, though.
I like his game. I like his game. Don't get me wrong, but like everyone's like, okay, look at his stat sheet. This guy is him. And I'm like, I get it, but like at the same time, Czar, I feel like I could have scored 19 a game for Cleveland, like on those rosters. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a reason why like Darius Garland, like he is that different level of player because of how he can involve his teammates, do a little bit
Impact
more on the
winning.
court. But yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
impact
And that's where the level changes. That's where it's a little different.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Colin Sexton's nice
He's
with
that
it,
dude.
and he
Yeah,
can
he's
score.
nice.
Like he's a bucket. Like I'm not saying he's not, but like again, it's like how people just overvalue certain guys, and then like in the same breath look at Ben Wallace's career. Like how is that guy a Hall of Famer? It's like, all right, now hold up. Now
So
hold up.
Sean, would you say he's a basketball player or a hooper?
Definitely a hooper. Definitely a
He's
hooper.
a hooper.
Yeah,
He's a hooper.
100% a hooper. If we're going by the Nick Henkel definition,
Yeah, shout out to Nick Henkel.
Yeah, shout out to Motown Noah if we're going with those parameters. But with that, Troy, it's that time of the show. It's that last segment. We always go to you at the end with our segment we like to call From Mount Rushmore. Sometimes we do rankings. Sometimes we do retrospectives and talk random things. But with that, Troy, what are we doing today?
Yeah, we are doing Mount Rushmore, but we're doing kind of a basic one. And I don't want it to be boring. I want it to be good, but we're going really, really basic. And that is the Mount Rushmore of best point guards of all time.
All right. I like it. I like it.
What about you, Troy? I want to hear. I want to hear this man's list. You got the.
Yeah. Well, I'll start the list with Captain Obvious here, Magic Johnson. Just one of the best point guards we've ever seen play this game. Comes in the 1979 NBA draft, going first overall to the Los Angeles Lakers after winning a high school championship and then a college championship. And then his first rookie year, he wins an NBA championship going 6 games against the Philadelphia 76ers, which an injured Kareem, and hosting that Larry O'Brien trophy. I'm not sure if it was called the Larry O'Brien trophy back then, but hosting the NBA Finals trophy back in his rookie season. And really, there's really been no player that's won all 3 to my knowledge. And I think he impacted the game in so many ways. You think of obviously the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird rivalry, but just how he took that franchise. Hey, I like it.
Hey, you humble brag right here.
That humble brag there, no biggie, just share.
He's
just
your boy.
one of those moments where you can share your screen and flex a little. No biggie, no big, fine,
How he changed that Los Angeles Lakers organization. I mean, from going to the finals a bunch of times with Jerry West, only winning one of them with him. And then he totally takes that Lakers franchise into a dynasty. I think 4 or 5 championships for Magic Johnson. I'm not quite sure. Can we get that number?
5 championships.
5 championships. Okay, so 5 for Magic. Yes. 5 for Magic, and then had to retire a little bit early, but then was able to come back that All-Star game, right, and win the NBA All-Star Game MVP, and then play even the Olympics that summer too in '92. It was remarkable. So, I really just barely scraped the surface of Magic Johnson's career, but you cannot make this list without Earvin Magic Johnson, can you?
Well, no, you really can't. I'm gonna give Czar the free one. I'm gonna take another one. I'm gonna let him go with one that I think is pretty obvious. But I'm gonna go Steph Curry has to be on this Mount Rushmore after everything that I'm not putting him second all time. This isn't like the ranking. I'm not putting him number 2. But after everything Steph Curry's done, he's got to be on the Mount Rushmore of best point guards of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, like the guy literally changed the game. He made an entire position seem worthless for half a decade until they figured out that big men could still be good. They just had to change how they played. Like he literally like they made franchises look at how they draft differently, how the court is made up differently, how they draft, what like point guards need to be. Like guys like Ricky Rubio used to be like at the top of the draft, but now might not even like get past like pick number 20 because of the fact that he couldn't shoot the 3 naturally coming out of the Euro League. I mean, that's just where we're at in this league now. So like, I mean, Steph Curry, like multiple time champion, MVP, only consensus MVP we've ever had. I mean, everything Steph Curry's done for the game. He's got to be on the Mount Rushmore of best point guards. Now, is he above certain guys like Zeke? I don't know about that.
I mean,
but
I'm wearing the shirt. I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Yes, sir.
My pick has to be, of course, Will Bynum. No, I'm kidding.
Of course, dude. No, all
Steve
jokes
Blake.
aside, the god Carlos
I
Arroyo
like
is
this
where you're
guy
going
already.
with it.
No, of course it's going to be Isaiah Thomas,
Mhm.
the Pistons GOAT, undoubtedly. I mean, what can I say that hasn't been said about Isaiah?
Yeah.
The ultimate bad boy. I mean that game on the injured ankle. I mean, I was a good 20 years away from being born when that happened. But let me tell you, the amount of times I've watched that since, a lot of times. My uncle was actually the one that introduced me to a lot of those Isaiah moments because that was his favorite point guard, and I learned exactly why. And then I actually met Isaiah in 2017, whatever the last game of the Palace was. They had this whole suite of Pistons legends. I got to meet all of them. It was pretty sweet. It was a pretty sweet day. Because long story, but I ended up in that suite. I really had no business being there, but Isaiah was like the nicest guy too, which is crazy because the way he plays, he's a dog. Definition of it's got that dog in him. That's my favorite phrase, and my favorite players all have that dog in them. Isaiah Thomas has that dog in him.
Yeah, if you were to take an X-ray of Isaiah Thomas, like you see all those memes,
This dog.
you would find that dog in him. Believe me, you'd
Right in the
find
heart.
multiple dogs in him.
Pitbull, no Mr. 305. Like he's all
No, yeah, no,
all
Mr. Worldwide. Like
no
it's
Mr. Worldwide. But yeah, Isaiah, 2 championships to his name, something that hasn't been done as a Detroit Piston since then. I mean, I feel like I'm everybody here that's watching this, you know.
Yeah. I mean, just from a sheer talent standpoint, and I mean, at the time when it was a league of giants, for a guy at 6'1" to be that dominant and to lead a team to back-to-back championships, especially during what people say is the golden era of the NBA, the toughest era of the NBA, against guys like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, the sheer competition that they faced in the 80s and 90s, that team stood out as one of the best teams in that era. And ultimately, we wouldn't be talking about the greatness of Michael Jordan if it wasn't for guys like Isaiah Thomas being in his path. And so, and you talk about that sprained ankle game, something that doesn't get enough love and praise, because I mean, obviously, you know, when you don't ultimately win that game, people aren't going to remember it as much, but still the performance, it was not from a lack of trying, that's for sure. And Isaiah Thomas put on one of the all-time great finals performances with that game. Unreal.
Better than the flu game.
I agree.
Jeff, we got an interesting position
I
right
got
now
something
going
spicy.
for.
Oh, I'm good. I got my guy, and I know too. This list is weird because it's like Steph Curry, the greatest point guard, but is he a point guard? Is he a 2 guard?
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
You know what? I'm going Allen Iverson. I think. Listen, he's on my list. He's on my list.
I like that.
And I'm going to say this much: four-time scoring champion, rookie of the year, 2-time All-Star MVP, and a guy who took the 2000 Philadelphia 76ers to the NBA Finals with our guy Larry Brown as head coach, of course. But let me tell you his second option on that team. My man averaged 31.5 points per game. Second option being Theo Ratliff, a guy who also plays sometimes with the Detroit Pistons.
Theo the God? Don't be
Theo the God.
it
Allen Iverson, for his size, talk about heart. This man had heart. And AI's got to be in my Mount Rushmore for point guards. I get he was a point guard, 2 guard, whatever you want to classify it as. He was going up against behemoths. At 5'11", is he 6 foot? Probably not. But the fact that he played with that much passion, and I get the low efficiency numbers, but greatness, you can identify greatness. And he crossed over MJ. We all know the iconic moment there. But AI's in my Mount Rushmore.
I have a question.
We got to do a couple honorable mentions, and
there's plenty.
If you're going to put AI, I got to put Chris Paul. I mean, the guy. Again, I think a true point guard is his ability to facilitate the ball, his ability to score the ball too at will. We got to get that guy a chip before he retires, though. I'm a pretty big Chris Paul guy, so I would really think we gotta make sure that happens. But I just feel like he's definitely a guy who's been in the league for a while now, and age. We haven't really seen a deficiency in his age, right? He hasn't really shown his age too much. He's playing a lot of the same basketball, at least his stat-wise, at least, and is able to be on one of the best teams in the league with the Phoenix Suns. Chris Paul has to be on my
but we got to talk about who's left off that list, though. I mean, there's a couple guys that have been left off the list. So,
Still more.
Yeah, so there's John Stockton. That's a guy that wasn't brought up. There's Pete Maravich, I know that's one that Troy is gonna get his panties in a bunch about. But also Oscar Robertson is another guy that wasn't brought up on that list either. So you're putting Allen Iverson over the Big O. You're putting him over Oscar Robertson. Wow,
he's my guy.
Wow,
AI.
I respect it though. I do respect it.
It's my Mount Rushmore. What are you talking? This is my guys. AI's up there.
So, a question about AI.
Yeah,
he averaged 31. You said.
Yeah. Yep.
You put that in today's NBA with NBA stat inflation. How much do you think he's averaging?
Yeah, that's a good question,
dude. That's crazy because you're right. He averaged 31 on what, like average points per game, probably 90 as a team. I mean, 85, 90.
Can you imagine if he actually gave a damn about practice too? Like, can you imagine like if he had all that talent and the work ethic? Like that's the crazy thing that people don't talk about. Like he was like insanely talented and he was coming in hungover like half the time. But then he would go out there and still ball and put up 30+ points. Imagine if he was practicing. Like unreal, man.
He had no business being in that finals against Shaq and Kobe, but my man had heart and he carried a franchise through the regular season and through the postseason. So he's got to be up there for me. But I get Chris Paul. I mean, these guys are all great. Chris, the only problem I have with Chris too is like, why does he get injured at the worst times? Like, I feel like at the biggest game in the most important matchup of the entire season, Chris Paul, sore finger, out for 2 games.
My big question, I get the injury thing. Brother, how about when you're healthy and you are on the court? With all these times you guys have choked. I mean, like, I'm the biggest Chris Paul disciple on this podcast. I love the guy. Yeah. Like his game, I think Chris Paul is one of the most underappreciated players in the modern era as far as what he's done. But man, that game 7 against the Dallas Mavericks, I have never been more dumbfounded by a team's performance or lack thereof in a playoff situation. That Phoenix Sun team, to say that that they crumbled would be insulting to the word crumbled. Like, honestly, it doesn't do it justice to how terrible that team was. And like, I don't know if Chris Paul was out of gas. I don't know if he just was outmatched. I don't know if it was like the Kyle Lowry thing of like what percentage of health we're even getting of Chris Paul in that series. But like, man, like at a certain point, dude, you got to show up at some point.
What do you think, Zariq?
So this isn't live, right?
No.
Okay. So I was dying laughing because the minute you mentioned Chris Paul, I was thinking of that Reddit post. You know the one?
I don't know the one.
Where it's Paul George and it's like CP3 or it's like or somebody, it was like Paul George making they gave Chris Paul a name that I won't repeat.
Oh.
But it was
Yep. Oh no.
It was you can work with CP.
When the pod goes off, you can share that name with me.
But but
oh no,
it wasn't a kind name. It wasn't a kind name.
No. But outside of that, Chris Paul, I have always had a lot of respect for. I think he's a great point guard. Point guard is a little strong for me, just because he's been a great point guard for so long, but he's never been the greatest. He's not, I can't say he's been like the best at really any point in his career. For like if he was the best, it would have led to more tangible evidence that he was the best.
Right.
That's not to take anything away from him. He's an all-time great. He'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. But is he on the Mount Rushmore for me?
Yeah.
I don't have him.
Part of being a great point guard is leading your teams to team success. And even though Chris Paul, like you can look at the regular season, he's done a lot of amazing things. And what he did with that Oklahoma City team in the postseason, even how far they got and how tough they were. I mean, Chris Paul's done a lot of amazing things. I mean, he got that Suns team to the finals year 1, right? Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, he also, as that final series went on, was a non-factor. This year in the playoffs, towards the end of that series, was a non-factor. I mean, the entire playoffs this entire year, offensively, was terrible. Like, he wasn't bad; he was terrible. So, I mean, I think with Chris Paul, like if he can win a championship and do some things, like I think there's he's the type of guy that like by the end of his career maybe he could be considered on that list. But I think at this point, I think the window is rapidly closing, and especially the fact that the Suns couldn't get the Kevin Durant thing done, and now that they have no clue when they can actually trade DeAndre Ayton, it just feels less and less certain for them to me. But I mean, the one thing it does feel certain to me is Zariq, we got to have you back, brother. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Dude, I'm just excited. Not only am I excited that you're on the Woodward team, man, I'm excited. I'm gonna definitely have to have you on again real soon to talk pro wrestling, because I know you're a wrestling fan. I'm a wrestling fan. I know we've texted back and forth about some wrestling stuff before, so we definitely, especially with everything going on in the wrestling world right now, dude, you definitely got to come back on and talk about that.
100%.
But yeah, but dude, be sure people are following you on Twitter, not Raspberry, also at Bully Ball as well. Be sure that they're also catching what you're doing on Woodward Sports. You're going to be running the socials on weeknights, man. We're super pumped for what you're going to be doing for that. And just grateful for you, man. Seriously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love this show. It's a daily YouTube watch for me.
I appreciate that, man.
So I love what you guys have been doing, man.
Hell yeah.
Hey, that means a lot, man. It's just cool. It's cool as heck to be able to have, like people like you in the community, and like, just all the awesome viewers that are tuning in. Just absolutely grateful for what this channel's become, and it's absolutely been an honor. So absolutely, man. We're gonna keep going because this is From Half Court, because each and every week we're talking all things.